My name's Avid, and I have spent the last 2 years working on this adventure map with one goal in mind: add an endgame to Minecraft, which honestly is a massive goal. So what does that actually mean? It means adding quests, custom bosses, and minigames all on an active multiplayer server. And as an added challenge, I can't use data packs. This is Avid Adventures. How is it going, everybody? I have an awesome episode planned for you today. We are actually going to see every single quest on the Avid Adventures server. But this isn't going to be one of those low-effort world tour videos where I just run around. No, we are actually going to make every single quest better. And the first quest we are going to tackle today is one of my absolute favorites, Crescent Bay, modeled after one of my favorite games, RuneScape. Oh, and good, the villager pathfinding is still totally broken on campfires, and they're just stuck here. Mojang will fix that probably, I'm sure. But no, today we are actually going to be solving some bugs in the Crescent Bay dungeon. How players find the dungeon is they talk to this little fella in the bar called Jingles. And Jingles says, hey, do you want to hear a shanty? I mean, obviously. You have found the hidden door. Try looking up from the ocean floor. But be warned, if you climb aboard, the risk be not worth the reward. Note block songs aren't just for Etho, you know. And bonus points down in the comments if you actually know what that song is. And if players pay attention to those absolutely captivating lyrics, they're probably gonna find this hidden trap door. We open the door, and we have reached the dungeon of Crescent Bay, also known as Leviathan. Leviathan is an enormous magical ship that also doubles as a parkour dungeon. And you'll notice I'm using the honey theme in a lot of places. That has to do with the boss, who is basically just a giant bumblebee that happens to be a ghast, but we're not gonna get to him yet. We're gonna talk about the major shortcoming of this dungeon, which is the stinking slime block launchers that don't work on multiplayer servers. What the heck? Okay, let me explain. So I have a basic slime block launcher in my creative test world, and if a player happens to be on the lower slime block, the player gets launched. And the reason this doesn't work on a multiplayer server is because position isn't calculated as accurately when you're on a server, and yeah, you can do it in a minecart and blah, 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 blah. I don't wanna do it in a minecart. I'm actually gonna draw some inspiration from my last video where I recreated Super Smash Bros. In Minecraft. Have you not seen that video? What I did is I used a creeper to enable a double jump mechanic. So what I'm thinking is we replace the horizontal piston with a creeper explosion. And let's see if that actually worked a lot better than I expected. Maybe 2 creepers? Oh yeah! Back on the server here, leaning into the pirate theme, I made a cannon. So now when players hit this, yes! And then they can bounce down and up to the other side. And I also made it so that the cannon works from the entry area. So I added a second cannon to the hardest parkour segment in the dungeon. Let's see if I can make it. 1 slime, 2, cannon. Oh geez, okay, time it, but super fast. Okay, we made it, and then we gotta jump up there, and now we are ready to take on the Bumblebee boss. So Bumblebee is a very unique, but also very uniquely flawed boss. And it works something like this. Players are in a minecart, and they get a crossbow that they need to use to shoot targets and get to the upper floor, which is how they actually damage the boss. You can also kill the boss with its own fireball, which is a whole other bug that I'm gonna address off camera. But really, the way that players damage the boss is there is this target to shoot with this giant label that says fire. And the problem is we have a bunch of cheaters on this server who just get out of the minecart and shoot this fire sign over and over again. What kind of boss leaves a fire button in the middle of their lair? Seems kind of stupid. So what I'm thinking is we actually use these cannons in a really cool way. I have this awesome idea, but for that, we have to jump into a time lapse, so let's go! When thinking about changing the boss damage mechanics, I had to get rid of that terrible fire sign and start over completely from scratch. So what I wanted to do was get players up and into the ceiling, so I made these slime block launchers to launch the minecart. Yes, I said I wasn't gonna do it, I did use minecarts. Then I began texturing the ceiling using a technique with leaves that I invented in my tower defense game, and I started to lay out some minecart tracks. And oh, the ceiling is looking so good. After that, I started to make a design around each of the launchers, and also I made targets that players need to shoot in order to be launched up into the ceiling. So you don't just ride up to the ceiling, there's a skill element to it, which I think is really cool. Now for my favorite part, the ceiling area. Oh, this is so cool. So there are target blocks above each of the cannons. See if you can guess down in the comments what those do. I bet it's not hard to figure that out. Either way, you're gonna see in about 3 seconds. Holy cow, that project took 10 times longer than I was expecting. All right, you guys, I hope you're excited for this as much as I am. So I'm just gonna try to shoot some of these targets. Okay, got that one. And now this is the hard part. I need to shoot 1, okay, 2, and my timing has to be perfect. 3, yes, okay, and now we're in the upper section. And here the goal is simple. Shoot the ghast using these target blocks, which fire the cannons down below. However, it's kind of hard to see where the ghast is. So if you notice, I have a little wisp flying around. That's exactly where the ghast is located down below. So if I can hit him, yes, I got him. All right, and now we're headed back down to the main boss area to rinse and repeat 3 times. Okay, and this should be the last one. Yes, I got him. And before we leave the bay, there's one last thing I want to show you guys. This secret room here disguises itself as a save room, but when players make it to the center, they fall down in this powdered snow. And this is the first time our players are introduced to our Super Smash Bros. Themed arena. Now, I just spent a bunch of work off camera making an escape room to get out of this jail cell, and I'm not going to show you guys the solution just for when you play this world. But eventually what happens is players find their way down to this crazy tunnel. And upon exit, players are granted an arena pass, which allows them to freely travel between the arena and Crescent Bay. As for improvements to the arena, I kind of spent a whole episode building Super Smash Bros. In here. Have you seriously not seen it? But before we jump to the next area, I actually do have one improvement idea that is so dumb, it might actually be smart. And I've got to give credit where credit is due. My buddy Dr. Trog came up with the smart idea to pack the arena with spectators, but I came up with the dumb idea to do something hilarious with them. All right, and that should do it. Now to just put this here and send you off. Oh dear. It's like a scene from a horror movie. All right, getting a little fancier with the command, but that should do it. This is so incredibly stupid, but awesome. They're doing the wave. Look at them go. And I finally found a use for this command block minecart, which has made all my dreams come true. And with the arena made slightly better and slightly stupider, it's now time to head up into the clouds, more specifically to Cloud's Rest. Cloud's Rest is one of the more unique locations on the server, and I get a lot of comments on the ugliness of the crying obsidian, but this city was destroyed by a giant winged demon with a massive laser beam. What do you expect it to look like? Sunshine and rainbows? Maybe I could texture it a little bit. It is very patterny. Fine, I'll be right back. There we go. That is looking a lot better. I decided to make it a little more scorched and a lot less purple. But fixing that ugliness is not the reason we came to Cloud's Rest. The reason we came here is because we have cheaters. Specifically, we have cheaters in the Shattered Path. Okay, let's talk about how the Shattered Path works. So there are these waypoints, actually 8 of them, and every time a player clicks on one of the waypoints, they get either a levitation potion or a slow falling potion, as well as a portal fragment. Players can then use these potions to traverse the Shattered Path, whether they float down or levitate up to certain platforms. And once the final portal fragment is obtained, players need to figure out how to get up to that platform, which just involves one little float down to this one, a levitation up to this one, and a trusty ender pearl. Throw it and, oh gosh, did I make it? I don't know. I did make it. Wow, that was a good throw. So how were people cheating, you ask? Well, they were hoarding portal fragments and actually smuggling them out of this area. So what I've done is made a giant barrier cage, the lengths we go through as adventure map makers to prevent cheese. And now we're here at one of my favorite bosses, also known as Belial. He's probably one of the coolest bosses on the server, and the way it works is awesome. So players have to go between these 3 platforms, and on each platform there's a different trial that players need to survive. If players prove themselves in the trial, then they're granted this magic arrow that can actually do damage to Belial. And just before I show you the other 2 trials and the victory, I want to talk about a couple things that could be better. Once you defeat all the monsters on the stage, you have to sit around and wait for the other ones to spawn. The second and more pressing issue is what happens if somebody were to miss this special arrow shot? Shoot it over there. So clearly this boss needs a little bit of love. I should probably take a look at the command block room, and I'm a little nervous. It's not bad, actually. It seems fairly well organized, commented, but you know what? I'm gonna totally rip it up. Time lapse. I spend a lot of time doing refactors in my day job as a software engineer, but you know what? This refactor was really different because you can actually see the progress of the commands moving from the room up above down to my new room below. And once I was done with the code refactor, I wanted to give the arena a facelift. So I added a whole bunch of ruins and structures, and finally a primordial tree right in the middle, just like the one in Otherside. And I am so happy with how it looks. And now the Belial fight improvements are done, and I'm super excited to show you guys the boss fight. There are 3 trials that we're gonna go through right now. All I have to do is get to the very first platform and try not to get hit by a lightning bolt while I'm on my way. Okay, we are at trial 1, which is pretty straightforward. It's just a bunch of creepers. Oh, he's charged! Oh, okay. And now the special arrow just gets placed in our inventory, and if we miss, it places another one, which is really nice. Oh, I'm getting hit by lightning. Okay, hold on a second. Hunker down. Oh, I got hit. Okay, we're fine. Trial number 2 is Belial's Disciples, which is just a bunch of zombies. It's kind of like a zombie horde wave. Oh, they're getting struck by lightning. Shoot them right in the head, maybe? Okay, we got him in the chest. Not bad. And now we can just follow the lightning trail. Ooh, that's a high jump. Okay, Belial's Legion, his inner circle. Oh boy, my shield is starting to break. There he goes. Evokers, and it's really the Vexes that I'm most scared about. All right, we have one more shot to go on Belial. Hit him. Throw our Totem of Undying in our offhand just in case. Oh gosh, he's charging up his spell.
It's too late for you. You should have never come here.
It's too late? Whoa.
You have been spared. I'm not done with you yet.
I've been spared. That is the end of Cloud's Rest. So it's time to say goodbye to the beautiful city in the clouds and head down deep underground to Ebon Glade. Ebon Glade was the source of a dark power, also known as the Old One. And the best part about Ebon Glade is this quest comes in 2 parts. Part 1 is an awesome escape room, which we're about to check out. Part 2, we spent like the last 6 episodes building. It's a whole tower defense game in an interdimensional tunnel, and we'll get to that in a second. Now, I'm not going to give away all of the solutions to this quest. That's for you guys when you come and play this world. However, there are a couple of must-requested features. Feature number 1 has to do with this pattern here and that bed puzzle that I just solved. You see, the pattern is always the same, and I want to randomize it. First things first, with this being one of the first quests I ever made, we should probably check out how bad the command situation is. Avid, what were you thinking 2 years ago? That's not connected. You know, this room isn't too bad, but I have no idea what it's doing. Redstone just laid on top of command blocks. This can't be happening. Why? Why? Okay, it's really bad, guys, but you know what? We can fix it. We build, we learn, we make mistakes, we change, we grow. Let's just say I have learned a lot since making Ebon Glade. I am super proud of myself on this one. So here is all the code it takes to get the full 4-color randomizer working. The most complicated part is picking a pattern of 4 random colors and not having any duplicates. And these 4 colors represent the template that players need to match. So when players click on a bed, what it does is it sets a block directly beneath this tracker armor stand and then moves the armor stand over by 1. So see, now it's green, and then it's purple, and then it's gray. And the way I check to see if the player's input matches the template is I use the execute if blocks command. And right now they're not the same, so it fails. But if I were to add 1 more black concrete and check if they're the same, now it passes. And just before we head down to the next floor of the dungeon, I want to talk about one improvement that has to be done to every dungeon floor. You see, Ebon Glade is a 2-player dungeon. The only problem with that is there aren't always 2 players available on the server. And so the way I handle this is pretty simple. If you want to play single player, a blood sacrifice must be made. All right, you guys, let's head on to the second layer of the dungeon. Hello, sir. This dark floor is also known as the Aqueducts, and it's a 2-player parkour / pattern puzzle. And since the bed puzzle was random, the Aqueducts puzzle also had to be randomized. So the last color should be blue, and now the water shutoff valve is operational. We hear a passageway open up down to the next floor. And most of you who have been following my channel will know exactly where this leads: the tomb of the old one. This isn't the end of Ebon Glade Part 1. 2 players are required to open up the tomb, or we just do our handy dandy blood sacrifice, and then we use the picks that are granted to the players to get through this gilded blackstone. Players then find some more gilded blackstone where they're able to grab a couple of these mining mix potions, and there is this epic zombie horde chase sequence where zombies pool out of the pipes up above, and these splash potions are used to basically kill them, but I definitely didn't grab enough, and now we are going to get eaten by the horde. But the end of Ebon Glade Part 1 is just the beginning of Ebon Glade Part 2. Just behind the coffin, there is an entrance to another dimension. But in order to get there, we need some gear from Thorne. So it's time to leave Ebon Glade behind. No, and head on over to Thorne. And to get there, I believe we have to venture out that way across the ocean. And you know, while we're heading this way, we might actually be able to make a quick pit stop at the first quest I ever made on this server. There is the beautiful copper lighthouse of Copper Point. From a lore perspective, Copper Point was the source of an anomaly. Specifically, copper fell from the sky and created these massive craters, and eventually an entire copper lighthouse fell from the sky. And so to stay true to the lore, I have this really crazy idea that I want to try out, but first let's get inside the Copper Point dungeon. And honestly, I don't have many changes to make to the dungeon. Plus, the competitive speedrunning scene would absolutely lose their minds if I messed with the speedrun times. Though there is one pretty bad bug in the boss room that I think won't upset the speedrunners. And that bug has to do with these stinking blazes all over the place. There are 4 buttons hidden throughout this boss arena, and every time you press one, these valves open up and blazes get line of sight with the player, which is a really cool mechanic because the arena gets harder as the player progresses through it. Problem is, we have fire tick turned off on this server, so there's fire everywhere. So what I've done is I've put the fire extinguishing into the player's hands by giving players 3 splash potions of water. I missed. There we go. And so now players can put out the fires themselves. Goodbye, Elias, you stinking stink. Oh, don't worry, he's a bad guy. He was actually crushed by the lighthouse when it fell from the sky and it turned him evil. And now for my crazy idea. Okay, let's see, just sprinkle a couple of armor stands around, and then we just summon a falling block above those armor stands and make it explode. It's absolutely magnificent. Hopper raining down from the sky, just as the lore foretold. When I made this quest 2 years ago, I would have never imagined this was even possible. Well, that was a fun little detour, but it's time to head out and go to Thorne. I love those explosions. But you know, one more detour wouldn't hurt, especially if it's a part of the world tour. This quest is what kicked off my entire journey into content creation. These breathing towers are actually extracting mushroom oil from deep beneath the earth and piping it through these pipelines all throughout the island down to an underwater city also known as the Deep. There are 10 towers in total, each with a different type of puzzle, and players need to complete these puzzles in order to create the multi-wrench, which allows players to break glowstone and delve deeper into the dungeon. Players later find out that this glowstone is actually called Expaxial, and it can be used to repair basically anything. Expaxial is just one of the many highly advanced inventions of the people of the Deep, though their greatest achievement was probably their city underneath the ocean. Or, you know what? This is probably their second greatest achievement, because their greatest achievement was the AI they created to help them build this city. His name is also known as Al. The people of the Deep lived in harmony alongside Al for decades until the release of the Old One, who came to the Deep after his release from Ebon Glade and corrupted Al with his dark magic. In order to rescue Al, players first have to disable 3 of Al's core systems: the reactor, the radio tower, and the boiler room, which then weakens Al to the point where we can confront him, defeat him, and inevitably reset him. And I think a lot of you who are watching today came to my channel because of this awesome boss fight. And before we get to play it, I want to talk about a couple of improvements we need to make down below. This boss room brings back so many great memories. Oh my gosh, I was actually using a mumbo jumbo shulker based randomizer, and it's also where I invented this really cool delay circuit, which I've since improved. And the way these armor stands control the particle walls up above. That was such cool tech. Which brings me to my first improvement idea around these particle walls. You see, it's kind of hard to tell where the boundary is. The reason I went with the explosion particle is because it takes a lot less of them to fill a bigger space, which ideally means I'm reducing client-side lag. But I made Al before I knew about the dust particle. Oh man, the new vapor wall is looking so cool. But before I show you, there's one more thing I want to fix, which is this monstrosity here. First off, there is no reason to use a redstone randomizer. We have armor stand randomizers. So I guess we're doing this. That is looking light years better. So what do you say we go beat Al? Here we go.
Initializing graphics display. Hello, world.
Hello, Al.
Oh, it's so nice to see you.
It's nice to see you too.
My name's Al.
I knew that.
But of course you knew that already. You haven't come here to hurt me, have you? Because that wouldn't be very nice. System corrupted.
Oh, buddy, you don't look so good.
Oh, Avid, you are so naive for coming here. And for that, you will die.
So I'm a little worried about this one. The floor is gonna start turning into lava. We have to be super careful. And no, not again. So we're gonna get pushed over to this corner, and now I have to take out these drowned. Okay, this should be the last one. All right, and now I'm extremely worried because this is the parkour section. So I guess I'm just gonna run, and I never make this jump. We got this. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3. I think I can. Yes, I actually made it. I never make that jump. And we are on to the vapor wall phase. So this phase is all about staying alive until the vapor walls are done. Look at where they're all coming from. And come on, we have to be getting close. Yes, okay, we actually did it. Okay, now that vent is going to open up. Actually, I'm just gonna trident up here. And now we are ready for the final phase. And I have 2 vapor walls coming towards me, but all I should have to do is get in this pool and jump over. Yes, and another jump. Yes, and I think this has to be the last one because I don't have any pools left. Okay, the final vent is open. I just have to get up there, and yes, we did it. But let me show you something really funny before I press this button. I added this Easter egg where if you throw a trident at Al's face, it does this.
Ow, that's rude.
I'm sorry, buddy. I'm really sorry. Okay, I'll press this button. We win.
Hello, world. What's my purpose? Why did you create me?
The Deep. It's one of those quests where you wonder to yourself, could I possibly do any better? But then again, there's Thorne. And to get there, we can't rely on submarine travel this time. Just next to our beautiful cathedral here, where we made our first cutscene, this little horse and buggy is our ticket to Thorne. Well, if it isn't the hero of Rosewood. You know, I had really given up hope that this world could one day be a better place. Just know you have my thanks. Ah, Rosewood, I missed you so much. And some of you may be confused because I keep saying Thorne, but that's because Rosewood transforms into Thorne at nighttime, and it's one of the coolest things I have ever made. And my improvement to Thorne lies beyond that door there into the catacombs. And the only way to get into the catacombs is to destroy these 4 towers. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that should make our mansion spawn in. And once we solve this jumping puzzle, we get a key to the catacombs. Yes! Okay, man, that's a tough puzzle. And the door should open up if I get close enough. Yes, slowly and menacingly. And here begins the coolest part of the quest, a full roguelike dungeon. I cover this roguelike dungeon in 3 whole videos, but the short version of it is players are randomly teleported between rooms in this dungeon. They are collecting loot, they get stronger, and then they fight the Curse of Thorne boss. And the way I designed this dungeon was to make it super easy to add more rooms. So that's just what we are going to do today. But this improvement is so massive that I had to bring in a pro builder to help me finish it. I present to you my good buddy ZEPLINGTON, who's gonna help me build out the black market.
Hello there.
All right, guys, let's jump into the time lapse. I've never done a build like this before, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going to do a build like this again. I mean, the scale of it was so massive, the details, the structure, and that's just the stone part of it. Once we got to the interior, I knew I was learning from a master. ZEPLINGTON just has this understanding for textures and gradients in a style that I have never seen before. And the way that he uses lighting to highlight certain parts of those gradients is just mind-blowing. So just look at this thing. I mean, this room turned out a million times better than I could have ever imagined. Oh my gosh. This is absolutely gorgeous. The texture work is just unbelievable, ZEPLINGTON. All I can say is anyone watching this video, go follow Zep. As to what I'm gonna do with this room, I had plans, believe me, but now that it has turned out so magnificently beautiful, I gotta put a boss in this room. Now, we don't have time for that today, but maybe next episode? Because we need to get back to Ebon Glade. So let me just cut out the brains of the Curse of Thorne super quickly. Here we go. And yet again, we save Rosewood. Now I just head on over to the tailor and buy 3 of the 4 pieces of the Bloodweave set. And here we are back in the city of Last Hope. And just on this floor, I believe Dallos sells the Bloodweave cloak, and yes, now we have the full Bloodweave armor. And before we head back to Ebon Glade, I just want to extend a thank you to all of you, my audience, for supporting the channel over the last year. I can't believe how much we've done together. And if you aren't subscribed, consider subscribing because you'll get recommended more of my content. So now, what do you say? Let's go to another dimension. Down the hatch, and a quick game of the Dark Descent. Oh, this is one of my favorite things I have ever made. Mainly because of this part where it just explodes with color. Oh my gosh. Not bad. A score of 245, and now we are at the Dark Gate. What's that sound? Oh, what? What are you guys doing down here? Well, that's a bug I didn't think I'd have to solve today. 413 of them. So I set up a command to kill any zombified piglins that come out of there, and now you just hear the shrieks of dying zombified piglins. And honestly, it makes the gate that much more terrifying. But the improvement we have to make today has nothing to do with the Dark Gate. In fact, it has everything to do with what's behind the Dark Gate. Though I didn't come here to fix the gateway, nor did I come here to fix interdimensional hole in the wall. In fact, I didn't even come here to fix anything. Instead, I came here to improve our tower defense boss. The orb, humanity's last hope. It's hard to describe just how much thought and energy went into the 35 wave tower defense fight that is this boss. I mean, I spent over 120 hours making towers and upgrade mechanics and different types of towers and mobs. This is probably one of my greatest achievements. But in that episode, I asked you guys for suggestions on tower synergies, and you had an awful lot of suggestions for the bomb tower. So yeah, you better bet your butts we're gonna do the bomb tower. So after thinking a whole bunch about your suggestions, I've come up with the idea of mines. Each one of these colored little guys is going to do something different when monsters walk over them. And the cool thing is they can't be purchased from the shop. In fact, the only way to create a mine is to detonate a bomb tower within the range of any other tower. So that means there are going to be 5 different types of mines, so let's get into them. The Ranger Mine summons a temporary Ranger Tower to help players out in a pinch, and look at this thing, it's so adorable. The Lookout Mine weakens a large group of enemies to player melee attacks. The Freeze Mine permanently applies the frozen status effect to an area of monsters. The Gold Mine provides players with a nice healthy amount of loot when it's stepped on. And finally, the Explosive Mine is kind of like the baby brother of the Bomb Tower. When you lay these suckers on the track, nobody's getting by. And I just love how these mines change the way the tower defense game is played. I mean, this is just so cool, and it's a totally different way to win. Or maybe a totally different way to lose? Well, I've got to say, I am super proud of the changes we made to Other Side today. Wouldn't you agree, Nutmeg? Just get to the end of the episode already. All right then. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed that massive world tour. This episode took about 10 times as long as I could have ever expected. So thank you for sticking around till the end. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll see you in the next one when we make a boss fight in the Vile Thorne dungeon. Bye-bye!